Hey, what's up, guys? Clayton Gits here. So I am super excited to have a conversation today with the one and only, the man, the myth. He's going to hate me for saying this. The legend, Mr. Tim Macy. And so, actually, I didn't know Tim well before within the past little over a year now, made a transition over to Real, and have gotten to know Tim much better, and just the humility and I like spending time with cool, genuine, down to earth, real people, no pun intended. And so the more I've gotten to know Tim, I just appreciate who he is as a human. And we are fortunate to have him on our podcast today. So Mr. Tim Macy, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, man. And you kind of paused before you said nice things about me. We have this culture, I feel like, where the further up you go, like the harder time we give you. Where in a lot of other places I've been, you like put the people that are high up there on this pedestal, and like they're supposed to be these mini celebrities, and like our culture of down to earthness, like we're pulling the people that are doing well down all the time. And so, yeah, it's good though. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
It's fun.
no, absolutely. And welcome, man. So excited to kind of unpack your story and learn more about you, frankly. So, yeah, man, like take us back, as far as, as far as you want to go. I mean, I know we all have a story, and
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, and you can certainly get as personal as you want to get, but, I'd love to hear kind of, how you got into real estate, what were you doing before, and as much as you're willing to share there.
Man, yeah. And I know we're on a podcast with somewhat of a time limit. We're not Joe Rogan and this thing. So yeah, it's funny, man. I think about my buddy Tyler Hassman, right? Who crushes it up in Canada. And there's this story of him getting his license and getting on his bicycle and riding the bike that he bought on Facebook Marketplace through the rain to go shoot his first, home tour at a model home. And he shot 350 home tour videos in his first year in real estate, and blew up and built this big real estate business. And so it's funny, man, that story of Tyler riding the bike to shoot the first house is this great story. But then I interviewed him last year, and he told me the story before the bike. He told me the story of doing Airbnbs and then COVID hitting and losing it all, and like owning part of a boutique hotel that was always his dream and the dream. And I say all that to say, it is funny. It's like, tell me your story. And so many of us, we have so many different entry points where we could start. And when I think about mine, I mean, yeah, I think most people think about 2020 when I joined Real. And, I'm lucky and grateful to say that I had a major part in, with a couple other people that joined in 2020, to build it to where it is today. And it's like a bunch of other great people joined along the way. And I feel super grateful that like my fingerprints are on the company a lot from what we did in those first couple months, first couple years. And so that's the place to start. I think a lot of people look at like when I first got my real estate license is the place to start. But I think that like the further you go into your story, the more you realize you are the way you are, is really helpful for pushing you forward. Like I've spent so much time analyzing the way my dad raised me that makes me the way I am today, to have like an idea of why I am the way I am today. Because when you have that self-awareness, it helps you out a lot in making decisions. And so that exercise of really diving into your story and figuring out why you are the way you are, is super important, I think. And so like if I'm looking at like that side of things, I would say I was born to a divorced family, which I think is pretty normal actually. And yeah, and my dad was a successful business guy, and so came out of high school, went to college, built some engineering business, and was like getting some government contracts. This is like in the 80s, and hit success, and then everything kind of fell apart. He got divorced, right? He made poor financial decisions. It was the 80s, and I think he did a lot of those things. And I was born in 87, and I kind of grew up in like the shadow of the fall, right? So I grew up in like the lost success. And so like I knew there was success before I was there. And I grew up in just like the stress and regret and whatnot of that. And I listen, plenty of great things in my childhood. I don't want to make it sound like it was all bad, but the things that affected who I am today was that. And so when I got older, like the things that I was passionate about was I want to have a good family, right? And so been married to my wife for almost 15 years now, and like I think we do well on that. Financial stability. I grew up in financial stress all the time, and so I craved financial stability, and so those are the pieces from my childhood that drove me and kind of drive me to do the things that I do today. But when I think about like the next part of my story, it's I was in a nightclub working as a doorman, and it was funny because I was in the Air National Guard, jumping around a little bit. You go to basic training. When you're in the Air National Guard, you join the Air Force, but you go back home, right? And you're doing Air Force stuff once a month and maybe a couple weeks a year. And so you're like part-time Air Force. So you still have to go get a job. And so I get back, I'm like 21, back from basic training, no idea what I'm going to do in my life. I had dropped out of college twice by now. And my buddy says, hey, this nightclub just opened up. Do you want to get a job as security? I was like, sure. So I hate nightclubs. And it was funny. I was there and I was like, I've never been fired from a job. I've always been pretty good at what I do. And I've always like moved up in whatever kind of job I was in. And I was like, I've never gotten fired from a job. It's like, I should try that, see what that feels like. And so one day I like no called, no showed, just didn't show up and just went out, hung out with my friends and posted pictures on Facebook and whatnot. And then I went to work the next night. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, if I clock out, I mean, if I clock in, then go get dressed, come back to the club party while I'm on the clock, like that would be cool. That would have to get me fired. And so while I'm thinking about this, my buddy comes and grabs me and they're like, hey, they want you at the front door. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm getting fired. This is awesome. I've been waiting for this. And the owners kind of like promoted me to the front door. So it was a total Office Space moment where remember Office Space where he was mailing it in and got promoted. But what happened there, Clayton, the reason why I bring that story up is I got to stand next to the guys that own the nightclub, and they are some of the best entrepreneurs I've ever met. And while I was there, I learned how they raised money for investors. I learned why the heck they pay Kim Kardashian 60 grand to show up to a place for 20 minutes, right? Like I learned all this stuff from them. And the reason why I look back on that is because I was one of, I think, 30 security guards that worked at that place. And I'm the only one that got a college education in business while I was working there. And so I think like I've always, other than when I'm not trying to get fired from a job, like I've always had this thing where I love learning from people that are doing very big things. And I've always been like that since a young age. My wife says I'm like creepily nosy. I like to say I'm authentically curious. I'm authentic.
Better way to say it.
Yeah, and so I learned a bunch of stuff there, but I was still broke being a doorman, got married, and got a full-time Air Force contract to go to pararescue, which is like the special operations training for the Air Force. So I trained for that a bunch and then got injured. I got stress fractures in my femur, which is a fun one. I got medicaled out of the Air Force, and then I'm sitting there in San Antonio, kind of a failure, right? Like I had trained for this Air Force thing and I'm out. And there were a couple things that I knew to be true. One was that although I was failing, I wasn't a failure, right? Like I knew I had gone for the highest thing that the Air Force has, and I did well, right? Like I knew even though I got booted from the Air Force, I was still, a top guy there, and I know that what I'm capable of. And I also knew that I didn't want somebody else writing my paycheck. I knew I needed to be in a place where I could build my own life for myself and not be working for somebody all the time. I also knew I was not the sharpest pencil in the box and that I wasn't going to go develop some app. I wasn't going to like build some brilliant technology or something. And so real estate just kind of seemed like the thing to do. So I got my real estate license. Wife's pregnant. I'm mowing lawns and driving Uber and just doing whatever I could.
What year was this, Tim?
This was 2014 into 15. So my
Okay.
daughter was born in 2015, so 10 years ago. And I have this picture of my daughter home from the hospital. She was 4.5 pounds when she was born,
Wow.
like tiny.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pina, and I'm like taking my classes and whatnot. And we lived in this house that I bought for like $105,000. Um, and the thing was, man, like I was driving Uber and mowing lawns, and my wife was working at CVS. Like, even though it was $105,000, we had just moved to San Antonio. Like, we couldn't get a loan, and so my mom co-signed on that loan for me. And I remember it was, an FHA loan, and I am great at not really knowing what I'm doing, but just doing it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just in the mix, man. I'm gonna buy this house. I'm getting my real estate license. Like, I've got the vision of what's gonna happen here, and my mom's co-signing this loan. And like the day before closing, I had a realization, and my realization was that my life's kind of a dumpster fire, and that my mom is gonna put her financialness on the line by co-signing this thing. And like, my mom worked her whole life, and she did fine, but she was not in a place where she could afford for me to mess this up. And all of that, I don't know if you ever had those moments where you feel like everything's great and all of a sudden you have this big realization, well, the whole world started to crash down on me. And so I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, hey, I don't know if you should do this, because like, I worked at a nightclub. I worked at an LED company. I dropped out of college 2 times. I failed out of the Air Force, and I am about to drop out of college again. Like, I don't know if I'm somebody you want to bet on. And she said, Tim, I watched you grow up. I know you're going to figure this out. And like, in that moment, she did something for me far beyond signing on a house. And she believed in me, and in a time and in a moment where I didn't really believe in myself. And yeah, that's how I guess I got into real estate, is buying that first house.
That's such a good story, man. Yeah, we all have those moments, and I have a mom moment as well. I mean,
Yeah.
she's my hero. And so okay, so you get into real estate. What was your first brokerage experience?
Oh man. So I didn't know anybody. You got to remember too, like I got stationed in San Antonio, but I was in training. So it's not like I was out being social. And all of my friends were slowly leaving. So by that time, when I got my license, I had no friends in San Antonio. Like, we had nobody. Uh, and so I get my real estate license. I just am going to go after investors. Like, I'm just going to go find deals because that's what I wanted to do anyways. That was interesting to me. And so I start going to investor meetups. In that same way, the kid at the nightclub latched onto those owners and learned all the things. I could kind of tell, you go to those things, Clayton, and your ability to figure out who is full of crap and who is actually doing big things and doing real things that you want to learn from is not always easy, but boy, is it important, right? To be able to latch on. And then not only that, know how to like connect with them, add some value to their life so they'll actually take you in a little bit. So I connected with some good people early. I went and just door knocked nasty houses. There'd be some house that was falling over in a decent area and nobody could find the owner. So I talked to all the neighbors. I found out that like the lady had passed away and her sister-in-law had inherited it and she lived in Seattle. And so I tracked her down. And it's one of those things where like you go to that house and there's nothing but mailers of I want to buy your house. Like everybody's been looking for this person that owns the house. And then I call the lady in Seattle. Nobody's found her. Like, I'm the first one. And I'm like, oh, yes. And so I did a lot of that, like finding deals for investors. And the biggest thing I think I did was I documented the journey the whole time. And so I documented getting my license. I was buying these awful houses. I mean, they were disgusting, right? And so what I would do is I would do a Facebook live home tour, and I would play it up like it was a luxury home tour, and it would be funny because I'd be like, yeah, no, the rusted out refrigerator does come with, and these beautiful, falling apart floors, right? And I just owned it. Like I owned
Yeah.
where I was at in the journey. And that was back on Facebook Live. Like you would go Facebook Live and everybody would see it. Now you go Facebook Live and two people see it. I don't know. But I did that. And so I was just documenting that journey. And along the way, I started getting like other agents following me, other people following me. And this whole idea of generating business on social media all of a sudden started to become a thing. And kind of by accident. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was just figuring I was just going to document the journey like I would document anything I was doing.
But so
And
can you unpack that just a little bit? Because why did you decide to document the journey? Like, were you following someone else on social, or I mean, was it just a random thing that you were like, I'm gonna just go on social and document all these processes?
it's funny. I I will always fill a need where I feel like I'm needed. And I have trouble just putting stuff out there to put stuff out there. But I would put out a video about this nasty hoarder house. And the feedback I got was just like, oh my God, I love watching those. And so the more I heard people say, I love watching this, the more I would do that. I had a podcast, man. I had like a podcast, and I heard a couple of people say, dude, I love the podcast interviews you're doing. So I did more of them. Like I just reacted to what seemed like was working. I think one of the pieces was, though, I just did a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So like you have to do a lot of stuff you have to get a lot of at bats to get that feedback to figure out what's working. But I just saw people were enjoying it, so I kept doing it.
Okay. And so were you, what brokerage were you with originally?
So this was like a little boutique brokerage
In
because,
San Antonio.
again, don't have my license yet. No, I want to get in the game. So I drove down to the tax sale just to see what's going on. Like, how does that work, right? And I would drive to these investor meetups. And so there's a guy there that had a brokerage that was buying stuff at the tax sale. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what I do. I joined this brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't interview
Mm-hmm.
anybody else, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
typical thing. I met somebody with a brokerage, and so I joined it. And then it was a couple, like I hit a couple home runs on the investment side on deals, and he wanted a piece of them. And he's like, well, you're at my brokerage here, you're doing these great deals. I'm like, well, I think I'm out, we'll see you later. And
Yeah.
so one of my partners who's a great guy, he does they do a ton of owner finance notes. I mean, he probably has close to 1,000 owner finance notes down in San Antonio. Massive portfolio, awesome dude. And so I'm like, hey man, I think I got to leave this brokerage, because he was the one that I was doing this deal with. And he's like, I actually just went to a lunch. I'm gonna go join this brokerage that I learned about at a lunch. It's a EXP. And I was like, all right, cool. And I just like signed up. And I like to think I'm one of the only people that joined EXP by accident.
Wait,
Right.
what year are we now?
God, I want to say it's like 16 or 17. So when I joined, this is the thing I love. I joined EXP right around 1,000 agents, and they were open in 22 states. And I joined Real right about 1,000 agents, open in 22 states. And so
Wow.
whenever that was.
I was EXP January 1st of 2017, I believe, and
Okay.
there were 2,400 agents at the time.
Yeah. So this was like, I think it was 2016.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and that was fun, man. Like it was interesting. It was cool.
So yeah, let's talk about that, because I mean, you kind of fell into this space. You know, I'd been in real estate since 2005, right? So I was Keller
Yeah.
Williams for 12 years. I was a franchise owner, and interesting, I'd never heard of this, virtual space when my business coach introduced me to EXP. And it's also interesting, Tim. Like, you kind of lucked into this new virtual world, but when I saw it, I just saw it as an opportunity. And where I think where some people look at it and they're like, it's different, or it's too different. That being different to me was actually a positive,
Yeah.
right?
I think Clayton, I think one of the pieces is that because I hadn't been in the business that long, I wasn't as ingrained in so much of the, for lack of a better word,
Point.
stupid of the real estate industry. You know what I mean?
That's a good
It's
point. Yeah.
when I saw cloud based and centralized and everything, I'm like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Like it's 2016. Why do we still have all these franchises and stuff. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But if you've been in the business since 2005, like it's what you know. I mean, trust me, I saw this in the military so much. You got guys that have been in the military for 20 years, and you're like, hey, this form we fill out in this process is dumb. Like, why do we still do? Well, it's the way we've always done it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so much of, I mean, you look at how many different MLS boards do we have across the country?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's the way we've always done it. This is how it's always been done. So it clicked for me immediately. And I was such a nerd. I think there's going to be a theme here. I got into Tom Ferry coaching pretty quickly, and I was broke. I didn't have any money for Tom Ferry coaching. But I noticed that a couple of the guys that I had met, which again, I met my buddy Byron Lazine back then when I had just got started, and a couple of his friends, and they were all crushing it. And they had a commonality, which was they all were a part of this Tom Ferry coaching thing. And so I got into there, and Clayton, I would just want to find out how Tom Toole ran his team. What were his splits? What system is he using? How do you follow up? What do you think like the most impactful thing you do to get business from your past clients are? Like, I just want to know all of that. And I would just suck as much information out of people as I could. And then I'd always get to brokerage, right? I would always get to the brokerage they were at. And little old me at EXP, it was like, man, being at a franchise doesn't make sense. Open up my own brokerage definitely doesn't make sense. And so I would take so much of their stuff in their business to use, but I could never get on to what they were doing brokerage wise. And so that's why that light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, this whole cloud-based centralized tech, more ownership and rev share and benefits to the agents as opposed to the owners. Like, this is it. Like, this is definitely smarter than everybody else. And so I was always a very big fan of the model. It just clicked early on that, like, if you watch The Mandalorian, I mean, this is the way.
Yeah. So, you know, you've clearly experienced this, but you know, for me, it's a really good book that I read years and years ago. I recommend it to everybody. Rebecca has read it, sitting over here. Rebecca's probably read more books in the past year than she's read her entire life. Sorry, Becca, but The Compound Effect, and so it's like the compound effect of the opportunity that you and I have both been exposed to for the past several years. Had I not personally taken advantage of it, that I would have lost. I mean, you know, not thousands, not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands,
Millions.
I would have lost millions. Yeah. And so, you know, I think that's, you know, when agents are kind of, you know, I'm always interested in the resistance, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, Becca and I were just recording, you know, I just talked about Gary and you know, this big, you know, deal he just put together and kind of why he did what he did. And I think it's to be more competitive in this ever growing landscape. So at what point, Tim, did you kind of realize that, hey, there's something here, and, you know, you're selling houses, you're working with investors, but then you kind of transition into this attraction, you know, opportunity.
Well, if you go back to when I was a kid, you know, financial stability was the inner driver for everything that I did. And so when I got into real estate, it was, hey, like, own a bunch of rental houses, right? And in 2016, I think it was 2016, I was business planning for 2017. And I wrote 20K a month by 2020 down. 20K a month by 2020 in cash flow, not in income, but in cash flow. Because I knew I wanted cash flow for financial stability. And what's funny was in 2015, I had made $20,000 all year. Like, it was insane to write that down, 20K a month by 2020. And so I always say, you know, write the vision in ink and everything else in pencil. So at the time, I figured I was going to buy a bunch of single family homes. Right. And then we grabbed an Airbnb, and the Airbnb was doing well. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to build the Airbnb empire. And then I brought on an agent to EXP, and they capped in like 3 months or something, 2 months. And I forget what the number was, but it was like, a couple $1,000. And I'd taken them to lunch. And I said, wait a second. I took this person to lunch and I made more than I did on my rental property. I was like, oh, so bringing agents is easier and it makes more money than rental properties. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying like I have a lot of investment strategy that's not just rev share, but like in that moment in my life, I was like, this makes way more sense, right? Like this is probably a better way to 20K a month by 2020. And so I did focus more on that. But I think the thing that's different was I talk to agents about this all the time because they're like, I want to do more attraction. It's like the more you kind of focus on it, the more I feel like agents miss. I was doing a podcast. I was doing the 5 a.m. call. So every morning, 5 a.m., I'd have 40, 50 people on our call for a 5-minute message Central Time because there's one on the East Coast, there's one on the West Coast. I did the Central Time 5 a.m. call. I had a Facebook group just talking about real estate video. And so I never focused on agent attraction. I focused on agent connection. And I just focused on how can I help agents and how can agents help me and how can we build our businesses together. And then, by the way, yeah, like as we're doing this, of course, people are going to hit me up because I'm at this great model with this great, great business model. So I think that was the key that drove all of the agent attraction. And then, yeah, I built a little bit of an organization. I failed, Clayton. I didn't make it. In 2020, our average 6 months of rev share, Airbnbs, and all the other fun stuff was $17,400 a month. So I missed the goal.
Yeah. What I love about that, Tim, is you actually set for you, it was a big target, at the time, like how in the heck am I going to, accomplish this? And, it's kind of shoot for the stars. If you miss, you're going to land. And so I've always like, been unrealistic with my goals and just gone really, really big. So all right. So I want to make sure that, if you're watching this, that you understand, because I know I know our listeners are going to ask the question. Okay, so like, how did you do it then? And what I heard was you had a Facebook group, you were still creating content, so you were attracting agents because you were providing value.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we should probably transition over to the 2020 switch, right? which was going to real, because that's when things obviously change a ton. And it's interesting because for me, I was chasing financial stability and I had it. Like first time in my life, I had it. My wife we'd sacrificed for years. Every vacation we took was actually a work trip to go meet real estate people, right? We hadn't taken a vacation in years, and like we'd finally hit the goals and all that other fun stuff. And then I jumped on a Zoom call with Tamir at Real. And what's funny was my wife, Pon, at the time, not at the time, my wife, Pon, she was like, dude, she gave me, I'm sure you get the look, right? You get the look like, hey, you didn't take out the trash or something. Like she's just annoyed with you. I get the look all the time. But this was a way different look. This was, hey, I can see the 4-time college dropout, thinking about blowing up everything we've worked for to chase some new shiny object. And she was like very, very worried. And I told him, well, look, this Real thing's kind of interesting. And like, it's not for us, honey, but we have to know what the other competitors are. So I got to hop on. I got to see what's up, because at the time it's like Real had 5 levels of revenue share. And there were all these reasons why it wasn't better for me. Like if all our agents came over to Real, based on their revenue share payout, like I don't think I was going to make as much money, like even if I could move them all over. And we jump on that call, and Tamir, he's so steady and just I love the guy. And so he's getting to know me. I'm getting to know him. There was a lot of stuff I didn't like at EXP. There was a lot of stuff I didn't align with, but at the time it was the best model out there. There wasn't a better option. And as he started talking, I'm like, Tamir, this is going to be awesome for a lot of people. Like, we can't afford to just walk away from everything we've built, but I think you're onto something, because I think there's plenty of room for another player. There's plenty of stuff that EXP can improve on. And I think you're going to do great, right? Go. And we had this great conversation. And it was one of those Zoom calls, Clayton. I don't know if you've been on these, but you think it's a Zoom call with 2 people. It's actually a Zoom call with 3 people. Because my wife was sitting off to the side, just right. She was creeping over here quietly off to the side. Tamir didn't know she was there. And so at the end of that call, I'm like, Tamir, it's not for me. We've built this great thing, and we can't afford to like blow it all up to come to real. But like, I think you're going to do great. Cool. Boom. End the call. And my wife looks at me and she says, if we're just staying here for the money, we can't stay. Like, if there's something out there that we align with more, that speaks more to who we are, it's like, we can't let comfort stop us from going and doing the right thing. And especially when I looked at it, like, I really care about all our people. And it was a better deal for everybody in my world. It just wasn't going to be a better deal for me. And that's also not a good reason not to go forward. And so, honestly, it was that moment that I just flipped the switch and started talking to Tamir about, how it was going to work coming over.
So you called him back.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to be like, I played a little hard to get. I was like, maybe we should hop on another call, Yeah.
That's really cool that your wife was sitting off camera, and I love that, man. My wife is my biggest supporter. I mean, with all my crazy ideas and things that we do. All right, so let's unpack just a little bit, and I can kind of prompt you here, Tim. So, I joined EXP shortly after you, right? So I was there for 7 years. And it was an amazing ride. Lots of great, relationships that are still there, right?
Yeah.
And it just, something was missing. I relate to your story really well, because something was off. And while I was doing really well, we built an organization at one point in time, had 3,375 people in it. When we left a little over a year ago, we were down to 1,540.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was just grinding, trying to build this silo, right? This brokerage within a brokerage, to increase the value proposition, so it would be more in alignment with the value propositions of all these other silos that we were competing internally against. And I think, if we don't talk about anything else, I think that I'd love to hear, if the culture, like, what was the number one reason for you? Because that was the number one reason for me when I this concept of One Reel and So what was the thing for you?
When I came over, there was no concept of One Reel. Like, I like to think that me and Brad had a big push on this too. Was that, hey, like, we can't have that. It just slowly eats you up from the inside when you've got this fragmented company. And so early on, we started that culture. And then I think it was Vicky Bartholomew, who's on our board. I want to say she's the one that came up with One Reel. I don't know. I gotta. That's a good research for the arc.
I realized it wasn't even a thing when you guys came on board.
No. I mean, and that's why I love Tamir, was he was so open to our feedback, of having been at EXP and having seen this thing grow, of what we could it's when you work with a visionary, a lot of visionaries have a tough time, like, letting people build a vision with them. You know what I mean? Because it's hard, but Tamir's always been super open-minded and I think really understood this early on, that we could build something better and different. And so, one piece, actually, when I first came over, I told, because it was so interesting to me that when I came to Real and I told some people, they were like, I'm in. And I'm thinking, like, but you would never join EXP. And they're like, yeah, but I'll do this. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so when we came over, I actually had a lot of momentum out of the gate. And I told all our people, I'm like, the world is just going to say we're the EXP copycat.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all we're going to hear for the next 6 months. I didn't realize it was all we're going to hear for the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just going to be 6 months. And I was like, look, we got 6 months to prove them wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right? To not do the things that they do, not be who they say we are and everything else. And so, yeah, I mean, we just realized that we should just focus on building a great real estate company.
Mm-hmm.
That people don't want to be part of a downline; they want to be part of a great company.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, like you were talking about, Clayton, I mean, I had my mastermind call. Like I was everything to everyone that was in my world, and I was like, this is stupid. I mean, if Clayton's people jumped on my calls, it would have no negative impact on me. Right? If my people joined on Clayton's calls, like it'd have no negative impact on him.
Yeah.
But we would both buy a bunch of our time back. And so, like, I understood that a connected network was way more powerful than a fragmented one. And so early on, like that was part of the vision, was like no silos. If we're gonna build a reel, it can't be Tim Macy's thing at Real. It can't be Tim Macy's thing under Clayton's thing partnered with Real. Like, no, we want to build the best real estate company in the world. Like we can't go down that route. And so pretty early on, we drove it, and it was not without some bumps in the road, but yeah, that's what we've been driving.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim, but I think we're the only company in the space right now that it's like in our ICA, it's, says no silos.
Yeah, I don't love to like say yes or no on that because I haven't read LPT's ICA and whatnot. But it seems like it. It seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a bunch of buddies over there, and it's just two different models, right? And so there are, if you're the leader of a strong, silo, then things are really good. And I think to your point, when I looked at this, I was like, what's best for everyone, right? Not just best for Clayton. What's best for everyone? And what I love about what I've experienced so far at Real is it's just better for everyone. And so you come from a scenario at EXP where you had a couple hundred people in humans in your organization at EXP, and you've been at Real for how many years
now? I joined October of 2020, so coming up on 5.
Coming up on 5
4.5
years. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you crossed 10,000? The 10,000?
No, I haven't.
Gosh, come on, you got to step it up.
I know, Clayton may make me look bad. I think I'm at 8,700, something like that.
So 8,700 in 5 years. It's incredible.
Yeah,
like incredible.
Yeah.
And the lives that have been transformed because more people are winning. More people are able to win.
I think, and not to, I do think it's an interesting discussion. And if you know me, I usually stay away from these because I am very grateful for EXP. Like I'm grateful. I love a lot of the people that are over there. I'm lucky enough, I think, to have I had a relationship with Glenn, which was, really cool. And it's funny. I was talking to one of my KW buddies about EXP. He was hitting me up. He was thinking about joining and all that fun stuff. And I was like, listen, KW is great. They're doing, this was back when Gary was pushing data. And we're going to have all the data. Like Gary, everybody's going to have the data. But anyways, he's like pushing all the things. And I'm like, look, Gary's great. I think a lot of that stuff. I'm a Keller Williams fan too. I think KW's done a lot of great things in the world. But the fact is, if you're going to change the world, you have to be a centralized tech company. You can't be franchised. It's like, if you gave Uber to all the cab companies before Uber became a thing, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They wouldn't know what to do with it because they're all fragmented. And so I understood that like a centralized company could pivot faster. They could adapt faster. They could innovate faster. And that's why it was so important. My problem was that EXP, I just didn't see any meaningful innovation. I didn't see them using the model in the way that I thought was going to change the world in a way that could. I mean, EXP has, they're 86,000 agents or whatever. Like they have done amazing things, but there's like a next step in this industry that nobody's been able to take, right? Whereas true market share of transactions and of everything. I mean, you look at such a big industry like real estate, and to have no brand with like real 30-40% market share is kind of crazy, you know? And I think it's because there isn't a centralized company that's innovating and doing things. And so when I was looking at Real, I was like, okay, I know EXP is going to start to teeter out because they're kind of cannibalizing themselves. And the more people I talk to, like I would talk to somebody that'd say, Tim, I'm joining the purple butterfly movement because they give me this training and stuff. I'm like, dude, I know we've been friends for like 5 years, but cool, do what's best for you. And then they would call me 6 months later and they're like, can I change my sponsor? Right. And I'm like, well, you have to leave for a year or 6 months or whatever it was and come back. And they're like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is a problem. This is a problem if you have that many people leaving your company to come back to your company and everything else. And so I just knew that, man, if you had a better culture mind behind this model, if you had a better tech vision behind this model, and you just thought differently about what the world could look like, there's a massive opportunity. And Clayton, we're at 26,000 agents. Like we're not there yet, but I do think we're running down a better road, and I like the speed at which we're running.
Yeah, agreed. So there was no, when you first started talking to Tamir, I mean, how much of the technology vision existed at that point?
They had an app. It was okay. It was fine, but it wasn't much. I mean, everybody likes to talk about ground floor opportunity, but we don't really talk enough about ground floor risk.
Yeah.
Like it was, I've done well, hopping on the canoe, hoping it would turn into a yacht. But at the same time, like it's like, oh man, you should invest in Bitcoin. Like, yeah, when Bitcoin was life changing 10 years ago or something, like it was super risky, And so, yeah, like there was a lot of risk when I first came over. There's a lot of people that I talk to, man, this, that are like, oh man, I wish I came over when you first talked to me in 2020 or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know if you.
No, you don't. Yeah.
But I knew the vision, like, and not to knock on Glenn, because like he called me a bunch of times before I left. Like he's taken time for me, which I always respect. But like my biggest thing was when I would talk to Glenn or I would talk to anybody in like the virtual world was the holy grail. I just didn't believe that they had the vision to create meaningful technology that was going to really be impactful and change the industry. And when I talked to Tamir, we were early on in like bringing on Pratesh's team there. It was just a much better vision that I saw a lot better future in. I'm like, yeah, we should try to integrate ancillary services. We should try to like make a better platform for agents to run their businesses on. Like we should be focusing on the things agents actually need, and not getting distracted by like, I just personally roast me in the comments. I just didn't think the virtual world was what all the resources should be getting invested in. I don't think it really solved a lot of problems for agents. Where I do think that we're more focused, like we're just more focused on the tech we're developing.
Yeah. It's again, just different visions from leadership.
Yeah.
Right? And so, right or wrong, Real is 100% all in on technology. And, I think what was really attractive to me was the idea, and again, like it's moving really fast, right? So, no one's told me about artificial intelligence and kind of what the vision was as far as Real is concerned with AI. But they did talk about the banking platform. They did talk about kind of this centralized hub, this app to be able to, run our businesses, from anywhere, really, like truly. But then here recently in the past 6 months, as I've gotten more engaged with artificial intelligence, like I truly believe this now, Tim. Like we're gonna, if regardless of what brokerage you're with, like if you're not spending time understanding and getting to know artificial intelligence, then you're going to get left behind in this kind of new economy. And Real just happens to be, again, right or wrong, like they're all in on AI. And because we've spent the past 7.5 years building this foundation, AI integrates ChatGPT 4.0 integrates really nicely into this kind of ecosystem that Real has developed?
Well, I think we're like timing, right? Timing is so much. It's crazy how many great ideas failed because of bad timing. And I'll shout out Gary Keller on this. Like, I think he was trying to do a lot of this stuff before ChatGPT rolled out, and if he had honestly just been a little later on the data and all that other stuff, like, he would have been in a better place. I think we are lucky on timing. I don't like talking lucky because we all know where luck comes from, but I do think we have some luck on timing, in that, like, all this tech we're building out, the infrastructure for our brokerage, has all been in the last 5 years, where it's been built with AI in mind. Like, everything they build, they're thinking about a Leo incorporation and AI incorporation. And Clayton, when I joined at 1,000 agents in 22 states, like, I had the war paint on my face, and I'm like, I'm gonna go catch up. Everybody's ahead of us, right? They got more agents than we do. They got more money than we do. Like, everybody's ahead of us. And it's fun now in 2025, looking at the tech we've built and all the stuff we've done, where we're actually ahead. Like, I look at all these big companies where we're actually ahead. And one of the reasons we're ahead is these big box brokerages, like, one, they don't make that much money, right? And brokerage does not make that much money. We don't make that much money. EXP doesn't make that much money. The margins are so thin. And when the margins are that thin, at that point in their company life story, I can't think of a good word there, but at that point in the company timeline, maybe that's better. Like, they can't go and just rebuild their entire infrastructure like we've done in the last couple of years. And so we're actually, like, way ahead, way ahead of a lot of these companies.
Yeah, that's certainly what it feels like. And I think it was Tamir that shared with me that, because of course, when I was, having conversations and thinking about, making the move over here, and I talked to you, I talked to Brad, I talked to Sharon, I talked to everybody. And so it was mentioned to me, because I asked the question, is this sustainable? Like, important question, like, right?
Yeah.
And I was paying attention to the answer. And so I think it was Sharon, and Sharon said, the only way that this thing works, and he said, by the way, for any company, is technology.
Yeah.
And he said, you have to reduce the need, his opinion, and I actually share it now, you have to reduce the need for human resources. And if you can, so we've eliminated the brick and mortar, the infrastructure costs with this new model, right? But if you can reduce the need for human resource, you'll always need some humans, resource, right?
Yeah.
But if you can reduce the need by utilizing artificial intelligence in our case, then not only can you scale this thing, but you can scale it profitably. And you see, like, all the changes that these various, and not to pick on EXP. EXP is like, they've just been here, longer, right? So they've had to go through all like, it's not easy, to your point, when you're giving away a significant portion of top line revenue, and so let me say this. What I think is brilliant about it, I was at Keller Williams for 12 years of my life. I was a franchise owner, and I will never forget this. So I get a call from the MCA, Tim, Market Center Administrator, I think.
Yeah.
And she says, hey, just want to let you, I was an owner. So she said, hey, I just want to let you know that we bought some desks, and it was $20,000. And I was like, okay. I was like, you already bought them? She was like, yes. So I didn't have any say in it, number one. And I said, well, okay, how many desks did you buy? 2 $10,000 desks.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough, as you know, to maintain profitability in these franchises, but the decision was made without me as an owner to buy 2 desks for $10,000 a piece, the exact same desks for the new team leader and the MCA. And so I realized that, what these new virtual models have done is they've flipped the model essentially upside down. And it's almost like a profit first model. So the company is accountable for spending what is left, not the other way around, right? And all these kind of traditional franchise models, it's like, let's take as much of the profit and revenue out as we possibly can. And then if there's anything left over, we're going to share that with the with the agents that have earned it, right? And so I think I think it's brilliant, but it is lean. It's lean and mean. And in our case, because we are all in with our technology and we've integrated artificial intelligence, like the next iteration of AI, like it's moving so fast. I cannot wait to see where we are at the end of this year. Anything you want to?
Yeah, I think the other piece on that is I think when people hear cloud-based, they think we're like anti-brick and mortar. But I have an office, right? I mean, I have an office. I actually just spent a good amount of money putting stuff in that office. I bought like a phone booth and some other stuff. I just believe that I'll probably do a better job spending that money than my broker would or something. And so like we put more money in the hands of our agents for them to go invest, because if that team leader was buying their new desk, like, do you think they would have spent 10 grand on it? No, but when it's, trying to limit the profit and all that other fun stuff. Yeah. It's like, I mean, not to go down a political route, but like, yeah, like you give money to the government, they're not going to spend it very well. You give money to the big company doesn't tend to spend it very well. And so that's where we are lean and we give our agents a ton of money so they can go invest in their business, because they'll probably do it better than the company would. But then the other piece is, I think a lot of people have looked at our stock price, which is always going up and down. And I was telling somebody before, it's like we're a speculative stock because we could change the industry. And so we've got like a lot of optimism in our stock. But I think the reason why the market likes us is for efficiency. Like when you look at brokerage and we talk about all these big companies that aren't making that much money, like efficiency is the name of the game. And so how efficient can you be? And efficiency comes from like thinking about things in new, smart, innovative ways. And so, when you look at the stuff they're using AI for, like in California, AI is doing preliminary contract review. Like that's saving our brokers time, because Clayton uploads a contract and it says he's missing 3 boxes before his broker has to even look at it. Right. And then Clayton checks the boxes. Okay, cool. Brokers having less issues on the contract stuff. Like so many things that AI is plugged into that's driving efficiency. And like I said, the reason is because we built all this tech in the last 5 years that we're so far ahead of everybody. And so that's why, not to go down the rabbit hole, but that's why I get excited for the future, is because we have a lot of competition. Like I'm not knocking the fact that we have competition out there, but when I look at the competition, I don't see them doing what we're doing on this end, which for me, I think is going to be important for the future.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think the answer is they're not. And we're, we've just got, we've got a 5-year head start essentially. So we'll see where it ends up. I'd love to hear your take on the fintech product, because it was another one of those things that just when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. But then when I really understood it, I think it is one of those potentially industry changing, technologies, and because it could legit be worth more than the brokerage. And, go ahead.
I have a funny perspective on it, because this was like 3 years ago now or something, Clayton, that we were in this meeting, me and C-levels and like, I don't know, 10 of the top agents. And Pratesh is like, what about a credit card? And I mean, I am ready to rip my hair out, Clayton. I'm like, how about we just worry about people getting paid on time and like all the other stuff that we got to fix? Like, what are you talking about? A credit card? I'm like, just shut up and let's focus on what we need to focus on. I thought it was such a distraction, And then Tamir, in the way, his calm leadership demeanor that he has, is let's hear it out. Just we got something. So I'm like, okay, I'll listen. Guy, I get annoyed thinking about it, like going back to that moment I was in. And then he's like, look, brokerages should know everything about an agent's business, right? They know how many deals they closed last year. They know their deal close rate. They know like so much stuff that they would be a far better lender. Like if I can go apply for a American Express right now, and they'll be like, okay, how much money do you make? And I'll say $1 bajillion, right? And then I'll say, and they'll run my credit score, and based on nothing, they'll give me a credit line. And I'm like, wait a second. Yeah. Like, I guess that makes sense. And so I was like, okay, we do have a unique opportunity as a lender because agents have a business, and that business is an asset. If I have, if I own a tech business, I get it valued, and it's valued at $1 million. Like, I got $1 million on my balance sheet, right? Like, I have a business that has value. Our real estate businesses have value, just banks don't know how to value them. But the brokerage should be able to value them and give you credit based on that, and all sorts of fun, different things financially. And so that hit. And then I'm like, wait a second. We want to give agents as much financial opportunity as possible. Yeah. Like, having our own financial product would probably help out a lot with that. And I think about all my stupid points and my Delta Lounge and all that other fun stuff. I'm like, I know they're making a bunch of money on that. Like, I could probably, this is probably a great revenue source for real. I could probably get a better deal on points on. Like, okay. Now the light bulbs are going up.
Yep.
And I can tell you, man, the biggest one, wallet, I do think, when it integrates with everything, is going to be a really good, high potential product down the line. And even right now, I mean, I'm using it. It's cool. But the biggest takeaway I had from that, Clayton, I was sitting there and I'm like, none of these other companies in this archaic dinosaur industry have thought of this. Like, nobody else thought of this. And that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, it's because it's a bunch of real estate people. It's a bunch of real estate people running these real estate companies that have just been in the industry for too long and don't think outside the box. And honestly, that's where I got the most confidence from in that moment, was like, oh, we're going to go places because we are thinking differently than everybody else.
That's a really good point, man. How has the ability to co-sponsor agents, how has that impacted you?
Oh man, it's everything. It's another one. It's another one that I was not super for, because I could just kind of see how people were gonna like manipulate it, and I automatically just see all the ways things could go wrong. But over time, it's become just this amazing structural enhancement to the culture that we already have. So if you go ask a brokerage if they're collaborative, I don't know many that are going to say no. Like, everybody says they're supportive, says they're collaborative. But I noticed that, like, we're far more collaborative, and our agents are far more plugged in because they get stock in the company. So there's a structural component to the culture that you're trying to build. And then co-sponsorship comes along, and it really ends up being one of the biggest structural components to our cultural philosophy that just, really amplifies it. And I think about it. We were talking about this the other day. It's like, if you need me to hop on a call to help you out with something, like, I'll do it in a heartbeat, because I know I help you, you help me, we help this guy, they help that girl. Like, it goes down the road. And you know what? At some point, somebody's going to call me and be like, Tim, will you co-sponsor this person with me? And so and then the other piece is, we always talk about how we want to be the best company for the agents that are joining. Where, like, I'll be honest, at EXP, it was all about the rev share and the rev share earners. That's what got celebrated, and we joked about it in the beginning, like, nobody celebrates me, right? Like, we give me a hard time. Like, we're all about the people that are coming over. And it's like our job, if we are up here, to serve those down there. And when I look at co-sponsorship, it's just such a win for that agent that's joining. When, they're buddies with Clayton and they're buddies with Tim, and they're like in this super awkward thing where they have to, like, that's the worst, man. It's the worst deal to be in. And so to have co-sponsorship where they can name both is great for them. And we just have to focus on what's great for the people coming over.
Yeah. Agreed. So what's, as we kind of wrap here, man, what's next for you? Like, it's been this wild ride, and we've both been kind of early adopters I was, gosh, you were 1,000 agents. I was 2,400 agents when I joined EXP, and I watched, I watched all the things, right? And and kudos to them, because it's not easy building these companies, and so they've done it. We're doing it. What's next? What are you excited about over the next 5-10 years?
So I'm big on big 5-year vision, and then having smaller, 1-year goals. And I can tell you, the thing that I'm focused on for the next 1 year is I think we're going into a lot of uncertainty, right? It's definitely been an interesting couple months. And I think there's a big opportunity to just go all in for our people, and really, any time things get difficult, we find that the people who win big, and the people that lose big. Like, that gap just goes wide, right? Like, how many people built amazing businesses in 08, 09 when 70% of people lost it all, right? I just I'm passionate about making sure as many of our people are on that winning side as possible. Right? How do we get as many people on the winning side as possible? And when you talk about real, that's what we're focused on. We don't have this, I need to go do 30 lunch and learns this year to convince people to join real. No, I need to help the 26,000 agents that are at real go win. And if we do that, everybody will come work with us. That's a byproduct of the thing that we do, not the goal of the thing that we do. And so I think for me, anytime there's challenge, anytime there's opportunity, right? There's opportunity to help people win. And so I know we've been talking about that. I think, you and I are going to do a lot along with a lot of the other amazing people that we have. And then the 5-year, man, I've struggled with the 5-year, because my last 5-year was 20K a month by 2020. And then in the last 5 years, I put another 0 on that. And it's well, what the heck? Well, it's hard for me, because, like I said, I mean, I just grew up wanting some financial stability. I never strove for this. So I have an idea that I haven't really spoken to anybody, but I'll give it to you. I want to grow the non-personal net worth to 10 million, and then spend the rest of our life giving half of it away. So get the personal net worth up to 10, and then spend our lives giving half of it away.
I love it. Yeah, I love that, man. I'm actually taking my team and some of our clients through Financial Peace right now. And next week is week 9 or 10, Becca. I think it's week 9. Yeah. And it's live like no one else now. So later you can live like no one else and give like no one else. And so that's the last chapter of Financial Peace is next week, when they talk about giving like no one else. So
I will say too, my last thing, just because if there's people on this that are listening that are really excited to grind and do the work and get the rev share, right? Or get the stock, or build a business that does the thing. And, the 20K a month by 2020, I worked my butt off night and day. We had that printed everywhere. I wrote it down every single morning. That was the vision. That was the goal. And all I did was work towards that. And in 2022, we were blown out of the water. I was 80 grand, 100 grand a month. And it was just crushing. And I was on vacation in Europe, and I was kind of depressed. And I realized getting everything you want is an easy way to find out how little it really is. And so, I would tell you that by all means, having the thing that you're chasing and running towards and all that stuff is really important. But the thing that I've learned in the last couple of years is I got to be more focused on who I'm going to be when I get there. Because if I get to the goal and I don't like who I am, it kind of sucks. And so yeah, whatever balance you can find from that is probably the thing I'd like to leave people with.
So great. And that's a great way to wrap, man. I was raised by a single mom. Three of us, $18,000-$19,000 a year. I've had nothing, and then I've had, a little bit, and had a little bit more. And Yeah, I can tell you from experience that that's not what, for me personally, it's my spiritual, connection. So
Yeah.
whatever that is for you, to your point, I would definitely lean into that. I think, being present with our kiddos, I know you've got little one. How many kids do you
Yeah.
have? How many kids do you have?
I got one. I just grab all my nieces and nephews every time we do something. So it looks like I got a bunch,
Yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah. So,
yeah.
so we're very present with our
Yeah.
family, and we travel a ton with our girls, and that to me is kind of what it's all about, and the legacy that we're leaving for them, is really what drives us. So I think it's a great way to wrap. So Tim,
But
yeah, please.
most people have everything they need right now. The people in their life, the people that love them, like most people have that right now. I'm all for the chase of more and building something and doing all the things. But I think the gratitude for what you have right now is super important.
Yeah, amen, amen, man. Well, Tim, I appreciate you carving out some time to spend with us too. It's a busy season for all of us.
Yeah, man.
So thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching this, replay, Tim, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect?
Probably the gram, Instagrams.
Yeah, we'll just
we'll
just make sure we put his IG handle in the description. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tim Macy, thank you, brother.
Thanks, Clayton.